Hi, welcome to SEO Hangouts with Josh Bachynski. C'est moi. Today, Google just announced that HTTPS or TLS, secure socket layer certificates, sites with serving on HTTPS are going to get a boost, a lightweight boost, and a few other Google leaks and things have been coming out in the last few months that I want to share with you. So that's what we'll talk about. So as I said, Google has announced that they will give a slight boost to a lightweight boost to quote unquote to sites that are serving in HTTPS. However, there are a few caveats and actually a few pitfalls you have to watch out for when changing your site over to HTTPS that I want to mention here because everyone's going to go rush and do it and get a certificate, and it's not going to be the right thing, and they're going to do it wrong, and they're going to hurt their rankings, and be like, why is it wrong? And in fact, this might have an insidious component. You knew I would go there, didn't you? This might have a slightly insidious component on Google's behalf for suggesting this, and so I'll talk about that in a second as well. So first off, what is this HTTPS bit? So if you don't know, and again, I'm not a programmer, so I'm not a server admin, so I don't know everything about it. But more or less, you can buy these certificates from authorities that will register your site and say it's more secure, and then you serve not on the HTTP protocol, but you serve on the HTTPS protocol. So instead of your website being http://www.redapples.com, it would be https://www.redapples.com. So from a business perspective, all you need to know is you need to choose the right one. There's a bunch of instructions on SE Roundtable and on the Google Webmaster Central blog. I'm not going to go over all the instructions of how to do that. I'm going to go over the SEO instructions. So once you've chosen the right certificate, it has to be a 2048-bit certificate. It has to come from an accredited or a generally trusted provider. Once you have that selected and done for your site, and do that with your server admin. Now here's the things you need to do from an SEO perspective to make sure you don't completely destroy your rankings. Because this is a domain change, right? This is just as dangerous as changing your domain from whatever.com to flubaduba.com. If you don't do it right in the right order, you can damage your rankings. So this is what I recommend. One, you want to make sure all your internal links point to the new HTTPS URL. So instead of your internal links pointing to myoldpage.com, you want it to point to https myoldpage.com/whatever. Two, you want to make sure that all your future external links from outside the web pointing to your site, you want to make sure they now point to the HTTPS version. If you're getting thousands of links still to the old version of the site, this can confuse Google. Because remember, as Pierre Farr and the Google I/O people recommended back in the Google I/O conference a few months ago, and John Mueller has said a bunch of times, and I've said a bunch of times, that Google, when it comes to choosing the most authoritative page, or the page they're going to trust the most, the canonical page, they will take the most signals. Or to say the same thing another way, if you have any signals that confuse them, if you have any signals that say, yes, the HTTP version is the page you should be choosing because you have a canonical pointing to it, or you have links pointing to it, that can confuse them, and they may not select the HTTPS version. They may select the old version, not what you want. They might select the old version, not what you want. They may not select the new version. My hand signals are confusing for you. So you want to make sure all your internal links point to the new HTTPS. Make sure all future links, or the majority of them, point to the HTTPS as much as you can be assured of such a thing, because of course all your links are donated from people that you don't even know about. Right? That's, so in case, just on the rare chance, you might know where some of your future external links are coming from, and social shares, because Google is using social shares. So this will also matter. No follow, mentions, and do follow links, and social shares in the future are all pointing to https://mywebsite.com, whatever your URL is. Three, you want to make sure that you don't have any rel canonical tags inside your HTML that are pointing to the HTTP version. You want to make sure all your rel canonical tags in your HTML point now to the HTTPS version. This is very important. And don't think that, oh, that'll be fine, I don't have to check that. Make sure you check your HTML, because you will be surprised what your CMS system or your e-commerce system might do that you don't even know that it does. Most especially if it's WordPress. So make sure you check your HTML in the browser to see what the final version is that Google's going to see. And check to see what your canonicals are saying and make sure they point to the HTTPS version. And then finally, after you've done all that, then you want to do a page level 301. So it's page to page. So if you have redapples.com/page A, page B, page C, you want the HTTP page A to 301 to the HTTPS page A, and page B and page C, vice versa. You do not just want to do a global 301 or a wildcard 301 from any request or any URL on the old site, HTTP, to the home page of HTTPS. That would be bad. That would be bad for a domain switch. That would be bad for this HTTPS domain switch. They're all just domain switches. That's what you need to do to make sure that your rankings have the best chance, and notice I said chance, of not losing any rankings for a short and or long term. Many people, when they go to do a domain switch, even if they do it right, they have ranking issues, fluctuations, and demotions that can last for a short period, and quite possibly sometimes, I'm afraid to admit, a long period as well. Now, there's many reasons why this is. They could be on the cusp of some algorithms being confused, or Google's algorithms may not be quite so forgiving as they used to be, or people like to think they are. And they might say, okay, there's all these links that were pointing to the old one, but we don't trust this anymore, or you've changed domains. It could be something sneaky going on, and so they don't trust everything that you're doing. And especially if you're right on the cusp of some quality algorithm or some trust algorithm like Panda or the Bad Merchant algorithm or the page layout algorithm. Or, and depending on the domain name you change to, you could be some keyword stuffing, or you may have removed some keyword stuffing, because you had an exact match domain, you moved to a branded domain, or things like that. So this is what you need to do to make sure you have the best chance of not changing your rankings by doing this. In fact, boosting them, because that'd be the entire point of doing it, unless you're already HTTPS or you have some kind of shopping cart, or you're accepting customer information, so you want to be on secure socket layer. Also, you want to make sure you do this when you're not in a busy period and you need those rankings to be as safe as possible. So if your sales period is the summer and the winter is kind of the dead period for you, then I would do it, September 1st. And so in case it takes a few months for Google to catch up and remember, oh, here's your site, the drunk Googlebot wandering around the web, finding pages, ooh, look at this is cool, You want to do that September 1st, and so hopefully then by the, 6 months later, when your stuff starts to pick back up, Google will have remembered your rankings and you'll be ranking fine from there. And if anything goes wrong, you'll have that much more time to fix it. Okay, also, you have to remember, you're going to need to adjust your webmaster tools. I haven't done this personally because HTTPS is so new, but either you're going to have to reinstall your webmaster tools for the new URL, just as you would need to do for a domain move, and or I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they actually have a mechanism now built into webmaster tools that you can include the HTTPS version or something along those lines. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know you'll have to adjust your webmaster tools or watch your webmaster tools to make sure that it converts over correctly. That's, of course, not a ranking problem for you. That'll just be a reporting problem for you. And to make sure you can use webmaster tools correctly, because if you don't have it installed in the correct domain, then some of the features will not be active. Okay, now, there's also another issue here that, of course, Google's not going to mention, and it's this. I've done a lot of work in using canonicals. It's a very handy SEO tool for many reasons. However, in trying to get Google to honor the canonical tag, you have to have a couple steps in place. As I said, you have to do all those things that I mentioned. You have to change the internal navigation. Your external links should, in future, point to the new domain. You make sure your canonicals are all set up right, and you may even want to do the 301s. And the canonicals are all set up to the new domain as well, including on the new domain. On the HTTPS version of the domain, you have to have a canonical pointing to itself. That'll give Google an extra signal to say, no, this page here, not this one over here. But also what they don't mention is that, what I've found through much experiment, is that sites that are having trust issues or quality issues with their trust or quality algorithms, such as the page layout algorithm or the bad merchant algorithm or Panda, that big massive algorithm that affects way more sites than people think it does, Google will have difficulty trusting this site if you have a lot of trust issues, or I've seen sites with manual penalties or penguin issues, not be able to get them to trust the canonical. And it takes weeks for them to do it, and you have to make sure you've done all these signals or Google's not going to trust it. So if you think you're just going to be able to switch to HTTPS without any difficulty, it doesn't, I'm afraid, in my opinion, it doesn't work that way. You have to be very careful, and you have to be sure that it's your downtime and it's a good time to try it, because you can damage your rankings. And if you've been having any Panda issues whatsoever, you might decide to get those Panda issues fixed and taken care of before you upgrade to HTTPS, because again, Google might have difficulty trusting the new URL, thinking you're trying to bypass a penalty or something, or if you don't do all the steps that I mentioned earlier. And if that is the case, and it is, because I've tried to do this on many sites that have been hit by Panda and or Penguin, and trying to do canonicals, just for normal reasons, and it's sometimes difficult to get Google to trust it. We can, but it takes a few weeks to do so. If this is the case, that Google, John Mueller has admitted directly that they use a wide variety of signals to tell what the authoritative version of some content is. And if any of those signals are off, that they might decide not to trust the rest of the signals. If this is the case, then it could be a little insidious on Google's part. This is a little bit conspiracy theorist on my behalf, but it could be insidious on Google's part, because they're thinking, okay, so the rest of the SEO world, we announced this, the rest of the SEO world, of course, is going to trip over themselves trying to get their site set up for HTTPS because it gives a boost. Finally, something we know gives a boost. Woohoo! And then in so doing, any site that's having Panda issues or at trust issues or is on the cusp is automatically going to tank themselves, right? So they're not just going to have baseline rankings and then people with HTTPS get a slight boost. They're going to have baseline rankings. Sites that are having quality issues are going to go blah as they screw up the authoritativeness in Google's algorithms if they mess with things. And then the HTTPS sites are going to get a slight boost. So you're going to see a much greater differentiation, right, between the sites having trouble and they're messing with Google's algorithms and are going to start to have ranking issues, and sites that are all above board and they install the HTTPS. It's going to be a wider berth between them. I don't know if Google's thought of this. I don't know if Google's like, sure, sounds good to us. But that is my conspiracy theory for the day. So there you go with that. So as I said, you have to be very careful when you're installing HTTPS. It's not just a slam dunk. It's not just a walk in the park. It might be more difficult than you expect. You have to make sure you follow those steps, and you have to have a plethora of signals that tell Google what site you want to be the authoritative version. Okay, now, going back a little bit in time, then I still have some more time on this video, so I'll share some more leaks that are going on, and some really interesting ones and good ones. Okay, so back in late June, there was a post on SEO Roundtable. I have the URL if you want, if it's for the discussion. It's disq.us/8IYQUS. That's a Discus shortened URL. Discus is a commenting system. It's disq.us/8IYQUS. If that doesn't make sense, rewind the video and let's do it again. Anyway, it's not really that important. I'm going to tell you what is said here. There was a post, Barry Schwartz put a post on SEO Roundtable about negative SEO. And, whether it exists or not, and a lot of people like to say it does exist, a lot of people like to say it doesn't. So an SEO contact of mine came on, and I know that he deals with a lot of negative SEO because he has very large e-commerce site. Oh, by the way, totally forgot to mention, back to that HTTPS thing, sorry. The same fellow, whose name will remain nameless because he's a very private fellow and doesn't like to get his name out there. Not that he's doing anything wrong or bad, he's a private guy, so I won't mention his name. But he runs a bunch of e-commerce sites, so he tells me, with thousands of pages. And he was already serving HTTPS. And so he knew when they flipped the switch to give a bonus to HTTPS, because he said he got a massive boost. So, although I just said, be careful not to run and jump and install HTTPS, now saying this, I'm afraid I'm gonna make you go do it anyway. But he didn't get a lightweight boost, quote unquote. He got a massive boost from HTTPS. And I think this is because he has tens of thousands of e-commerce pages ranking on Google, and so and all of them are served on HTTPS. So I think that all those pages got a boost. It maybe gave him like an aggregate boost, like kind of like PageRank amplifying itself. Maybe just many of those pages, weren't ranking very well in Google, and they all got to page 1, or they all got closer to page 1, and so his traffic got a major boost, even though his ranking was just a moderate boost on some pages. So anyway, he said that just back on the HTTPS thing. Then I'll get to his negative SEO thing. He also leaked last month, which was fascinating. Because he battles a lot of negative SEO on his e-commerce sites. He said he got a major traffic boost from a ranking boost from all these tens of thousands of pages that he's already serving HTTPS on. So as I said, you have to be very careful. But you could get a fairly substantial boost, especially if you have a site, an e-commerce site, or a site that has tens of thousands of pages. You could see a boost across all these pages. And so that could, trickle in, aggregate, that could trickle in a lot of traffic, right, if you get all those boosts. Okay, anyway, sorry. So this same fellow, he also posted so Barry Schwartz posted an article about negative SEO, and they don't think it exists. And a lot of the top contributors, a lot of white hat SEOs, don't think it exists. That's just because they don't run in the right circles, right? They haven't done enough research. It unfortunately does exist. And so he posted, now this is back in June, at the very end of June. He posted that it does definitely exist, and he shared with me a bunch of ways that he knows it exists. That probably is not safe for me to disseminate that information. But if you're curious, I might share it with you. Email me, let me know. But before I forget, you can email me any SEO questions you want at joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can follow me at Twitter at joshbachynski. And you can watch more lovely SEO League videos such as this, even better, where I'm not rambling and ranting. I'm always rambling and ranting. At youtube.com/jbachynski, JBACHYS. Okay, so the one particular negative SEO thing he mentioned was very interesting on this in the Discourse forums and comments on Barry Schwartz's article. He mentioned that it's a very well-known negative SEO trick to DOS a web server. That's denial of service, or send traffic to a web server so it can't respond anymore. And he said that because it's happened to him, so he was watching what was happening, he was able to fix it. He said if you denial of service a web server with open connections that stay open web connections that stay open, faking that you're a web user, thus slowing it down, you can also make the server respond with a 500 level error, like a 503 error or something like that, if you overflow it. And if you do this right when Googlebot is going to the site, you can drop the page completely from the ranking until that page is crawled again. And John Mueller has, in 3 to 5 days at the time. And John Mueller has confirmed this somewhat, that if they detect it, and so has Wiz, another Google employee, confirmed this, that if they find a 500 level error, they will go back and crawl it at that time in 3 to 5 days. And he said he's tested this and it works fine. Unfortunately, it works all too well because people have been using it against him. And so he's been losing lots of revenue, and he was complaining about it. And so we got to talking, and we started thinking, well, we should test this to see if it would be a viable attack. It is, of course, illegal. It's illegal to send, in most countries, or all the first world countries that I know about, to hack a site, and including a denial of service attack, is considered to be illegal. A cyber crime, as they call it. But some people don't care. and it might be hard to trace. And some people might do it from countries in which it's not illegal, and there's no extradition. So I'm not suggesting you go do this, right? It's a legal thing to do. Not to mention it, could be immoral, right, or those kinds of things. Totally ignoring that quagmire for the moment. So we decided to test this, and so he had a test server, and so he did a denial of service attack on himself, on his test server, and to see if he could take the page out of the rankings, to replicate it, because we wanted to present this at a conference. Now, he's going to be presenting, so I'm not going to go through the details of how this works and what he did actually to do it. This is going to be presented at the conference. This is the SEO Rockstars conference, put on by SEO Nitro. And Dory Friend, the CEO of SEO Nitro, she's putting on a conference called SEO Rockstars, where you can see me talk about SEO stuff, and this fellow also, I got him invited, and so he's going to be going and talking about this negative SEO stuff and a few other negative SEO things, and lots of other very interesting SEO stuff will be talked at this conference called SEO Rockstars. It's November 7th to 9th in San Francisco. So just search SEO Rockstars, you'll find it, and it's pricey, I will admit, but that's because a lot of really good names go there, really top names go there, and you're welcome to come on down. But if you email me, I can see what I can do, and anyway, we'll get you down there, and it's a great conference. So anyway, he'll talk about in detail what he did and exactly how he did it, and lots of other stuff too at this conference. But I just want to mention now, because it's very important, I want to mention it here as a public service announcement generally, essentially, because he says the way to protect yourself against this is you have to install meta tags, meta no archive and meta no cache tags. And this stops Google from sharing your cache entries publicly, and therefore it makes it so people can't track when Googlebot is visiting you. Because you can track when Googlebot visits a site by doing a SERP and clicking the cached version and seeing the date. And if you watch that over time, you can see, every 7 days Googlebot comes back and crawls that site. Okay. And that's, even though John Mueller has denied it in the past for this exact reason, that it could be exploited with negative SEO, that's the exact reason why he denied it in past Hangouts, well over a year ago. It basically works on the same day. And so if you see June 1st, June 7th, June 14th, June 21, you can, it's on a weekly basis, they're being crawled. And so June 28th, I'm going to send my denial of service attack. Googlebot will go there, and they would just get a 503 error, and Google would think, this site is, the server's down, the server's wrong, so I will drop it from the results for now, and we'll come back in a few days later and then put it back. So that's how it worked. It was a devastating attack, as you can imagine, especially if you did it around Black Friday or you did it around Christmas time. It could be thousands of dollars to sites out of the service. Now, he has tested it recently, and I'm not going to tell you how he did it exactly. And there's even ways to do that that are more insidious that you can find out at this conference, SEO Rockstars, find out so you can protect yourself. But I would just say that Google, to their credit, must have saw the post on SEO Roundtable and fixed it within a few days of it being posted. And they didn't completely fix it. They've partially fixed it. And so he ran a test, and his test showed that it'll drop the site one spot or anywhere from 3 to 5 or 4 spots. It will not drop the site from the rankings entirely, and that Google will come back on a much more regular basis if and only if the server can take the load of Google keep coming back, because they do have some logic built in there not to overtax servers. And they will fix it. They will come back to crawl to make sure that it's still there. But it still does drop it down at least one spot, if not 4 or 5 spots. Last time you checked, which was just this last month in July. And the date now is August 7th, by the way, in case you're watching this video 6 months down the road. August 7th, 2014. And it will drop the site a number of spots to do this, the way he did it. And that's still bad enough, and it dropped it for 3 weeks. And remember, this is the way Google's algorithms work. It's a careful balance of like 100 different factors, or many hundred different factors in some cases. And for them to choose what is the authoritative version and the trustworthy version of the content, of the canonical version of the content. And so if you're having server issues, that can affect it as well. Speed issues can affect it. All those kinds of things can affect it. So anyway, but for that particular negative SEO exploit, if you put, unless they DDoS you for a week, which can get expensive, or it can be a problem, or for an extended period when Google goes there. Unfortunately, as it currently stands, as far as our testing shows, they can drop you for a number of spots from doing a DOS attack. Your server people should be able to tell you're getting a DOS attack and tell your host, and your host should be able to get involved and call the police or their FBI or RCMP. Admittedly, it's a serious matter, but in the same time, it's sometimes very difficult to find where this is coming from. I've worked for companies, large companies, doing SEO for them that they've gotten DOS attacks, probably for other reasons, probably not for SEO reasons, although I was worried about the SEO ramifications. There's other ways to do it as well that are even more sneaky that they may not even notice. But yeah, and you want to install the no archive and no cache meta tags, because this will hide Google from, he tells me, this will hide Google from public reporting when your URLs are being cached. Of course, if you do that, you're no longer going to be able to tell if you want to check the SERP for yourself and see that they're being cached, but at least you can do that. So anyway, if you want more information about that, by all means, contact me, joshbachynski at gmail.com, or come on out and visit us at the SEO Rockstars Conference and in San Francisco, November 7th to 9th. It's sure to be an excellent conference. You can also follow me on Twitter at joshbachynski, and you can see more videos like this where I leak more SEO information at youtube.com/jbachynski, JBACHYS. So that's it for me for today. Again, remember, if you're going to switch to HTTPS, follow the suggestions that I've made. It's about a diversity of signals. You have to be very, very careful for that and for negative SEO these days. I'm afraid it is alive and well. Good luck in the SERPs, and we'll see you next week.